Goa, a stunningly beautiful, lush green state in the southwestern coast of India. The Goa that we see today has traversed a centuries-old journey to get here. A rich history steeped in struggles, in valor and sacrifice, in personalities whose voices can be heard echoing from every remote corner of this wondrous state. Come join us as we turn the pages of history on Goa's journey to liberation. The earliest records available to us suggest that Goa was ruled by the Konkan Maurya Empire. Between the 2nd and 6th century BC, the Satavahanas also ruled parts of this coastal state. Then came the mighty Bhojas, who ruled from their capital Chandrapur by the banks of the flowing Kushavati river in South Goa. Chandrapur, known today as Chandor, retains few remnants from that eventful era. Post the Bhojas, the Badami Chalukyas took over and controlled Goa between the years of 578 and 753 AD. They were succeeded by the rulers of the Shilahar dynasty. As Goa set foot into the 11th century, the Kadambas assumed control. Their rule over the next 2 centuries is remembered as the golden period in this state's history. Tales of prosperity are evident in the art, coins and folklore from that bygone past. There are references to flourishing businesses, grand architecture and incredible development during these times. The Kadambas built impressive temples dedicated to Lord Shiva at Tamdi Surla and Kurdi. The ever-expanding Vijayanagar Empire took over the reins of Goa in the year 1370 and went on to rule for a full century until 1469. In 1478, the Bahmani Sultanate of Deccan attacked Goa and assumed control. They set up their capital in Ilhas by the banks of the Mandovi River, roughly the area that is known today as Old Goa. 2 decades later, when Emperor Adil Shah attacked Bijapur in 1498, the Bahmani Sultanate came under his fold and thereby Goa came under his rule. Year 1510. A fleet of Portuguese military ships commanded by Alfonso de Albuquerque attacked Adil Shah's forces in Reis Magos. A bloody battle later, they conceded and retreated, only to broker a deal with local sources and come back stronger a second time. This time, Albuquerque tasted success and the Portuguese warriors barged into Old Goa on the 25th of November 1510. This red letter day would go on to change the course of Goa's history over the next 451 years. Portuguese missionaries entered Goa soon after and started to spread the word of Christianity. Over time, forceful conversion replaced preaching and assumed unnecessary proportions. The local folk were chastised for following their religious rituals and worshipping their deities, while being barred from housing any idols or figures of religious significance. Severe physical punishments were dished out to people. Ridiculous taxes were added. The Portuguese domination commenced with their capture of Tiswadi in 1510. In 1543, they expanded their hold by taking over Bardes and erstwhile Salsette, of which present-day Murgao is a part. It took them a good part of 280 years to spread their might all over, and eventually by 1791, the Portuguese flag fluttered high over the entirety of Goa. Conquest and submission on one side, this is also an account of unimaginable fight back and struggle for Goa's liberation. The first instance of the local populace rebelling against the Portuguese dates back to July 15, 1583 in Kunkoli. 5 missionaries were executed in an act of violent protest for trying to convert the native people. With revenge on their minds, the Portuguese summoned 15 of the village elders for peaceful talks and ambushed them, killing all without trial. Subsequent unrest spread in the entire region. 1664, Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj attacked Adil Shah and assumed control of Pedne, Bicholi and Satari. Under his rule, the previously destroyed Saptakoteshwar temple was reinstated in Narve. He also facilitated the construction of the mighty Betul fort by the river Sal. In 1683, Sambhaji Maharaj attacked the Portuguese and took over a number of their forts, genuinely weakening the Portuguese strength and spirit. He himself got the Mardangarh fort constructed. In 1788, under the leadership of Vitorino Faria and Jose Gonçalves, the Pinto Revolution started taking shape. The Portuguese managed to quell this uprising and arrested 47 rebel leaders who were later either hanged to death or extradited from Goa. Between 1755 and 1912, the Ranis led a prolonged guerrilla effort to unsettle the Portuguese. From the covert Nanus fort, Deepaji Rani marshalled his forces to fight the atrocities of the rulers. Over approximately 150 years, the Rani clan attempted multiple armed attacks in the hilly and forested areas of the state. However, every guerrilla attack was successfully thwarted by the Portuguese. In 1926, T.B. Kunha, often referred to as the father of Goan nationalism, returned to India. With 5 of his closest aides, he formed the Goa Congress Committee in 1928. Their aim? To free Goa of Portuguese rule, their weapons, non-violence and satyagraha. In 1946 though, T.B. Kunha was arrested and subsequently imprisoned. In 1930, Portugal passed the Colonial Act. Across all Portuguese colonies, a complete ban was enforced on any kind of rallies, public meetings and gatherings that was viewed to be anti-government. When Antonio de Oliveira Salazar became Prime Minister of Portugal in 1932, things in Goa took a turn for the severe. Censorship of all kinds were implemented on the Goan people. Even wedding cards were screened to ensure no clandestine plans of revolt were being hatched against the Portuguese. The conflict between the authoritarian regime and the local folk grew to unprecedented proportions. When in 1946, social activist Ram Manohar Lohia arrived in Goa, he quickly realized the pitiful plight of the subdued Goans. He teamed up with Julião Menezes to organize a gathering to address the agitated locals. On the unforgettable day of 18th June 1946, as Lohia pulled into the packed open venue, a police officer stopped him at gunpoint from progressing any further. He was arrested and thrown into Madgaon prison. Meanwhile, the Azad Gomantak Dal and other armed groups intensified their attacks on the Portuguese establishment. Prabhakar Vaidya and his aides launched a daring attack on the Kunkoli police station. Mohan Ranade did the same at Bethi police station. 26-year-old braveheart Balarai Mapari was arrested when he led an assault on the Asolna police station. He was jailed, physically tormented and questioned about secret plans related to the liberation movement. Defiant, he refused to give up any information and succumbed to severe physical injuries on the 15th of February 1955. The fight for liberation picked up incredible pace post the Lohia episode. The Portuguese retaliated by arresting many freedom fighters and confining them to dark prison cells. From the cold, hard Aguada jail to far off Angola and other colonies. Sadly, many of these imprisoned brave souls never saw the light of day again.
Long years ago, fate tricked with destiny, and now
when on 15th August 1947, India gained independence from British rule, voices of dissent grew louder from all over liberated India. 15th August 1954, Alfred Afonso led a group of satyagrahis and took control of the Tirakol fort. The Indian tricolour fluttered high atop the fortress for an entire day. The sight of the Indian flag was a huge morale boost for the freedom fighters and a worthy reminder of the centuries-old grim battle that was being fought to liberate Goa. In 1955, the Goa Vimochan Samiti was formed. On the 15th of August the same year, satyagrahis such as Jagannath Rao Joshi, Madhu Dandavate, Madhu Limaye, Karnail Singh Benipal and thousands others tried to enter Goa from various corners of the state. They were violently repulsed and shots were fired. Many unarmed activists were martyred on the day. In the aftermath of its independence, the Indian government continued efforts to find a peaceful solution through bilateral dialogue in international councils. Nothing worked with the Portuguese. Eventually, the only remaining option was military action. Operation Vijay was announced. On the 18th of December 1961, the Indian Armed Forces powered into Goa, and within the next few hours, the Portuguese surrendered to the military might. The Treaty of Surrender was signed at the iconic Azad Maidan in Panjim, and Portugal's 451-year occupancy over Goan lands was finally a closed chapter. 19th December 1961, Goa was officially a part of India. This prolonged bloodied battle for its liberation is an integral part of Goa's history. Thousands of brave souls perished in their endeavors to see a free Goa. The flag that flutters high today is a testament to all the battles that were fought for those 451 long years. Their efforts will never be forgotten.